Everybody, it's Live AJ back at you again with some more knife reviews, and it's been a while since I've made one of these videos. I was pretty busy with school this semester, writing a thesis and balancing that with all my other classes, but now I'm out, graduated, thankfully, but I'm about to continue my education, so I'm going to be moving, and that's kind of why I'm making this video. I've got a friend here in the town where I'm at that, him and I kind of share a liking for knives, and he, I would say, is the only one that I know from around here who shares such a similar interest in a deep appreciation for knives, which really makes it fun for us to, compare our knives and buy different things, almost, hey, check this out. Oh, I can, let me get one too. And we've kind of got the mentality of getting something different from what maybe each other has or what someone else has. So that makes it all the more interesting to compare different knives and, just see what's good, what's not, things like that. So today's video is about, as you can see, two Spydercos. And in a lot of ways, these knives are very similar. And in a lot of ways, they're two knives in different classes of their own. So let's get rid of these boxes and bring in the knives. Now, the first one I got is from, not mine, it's my friend, Jercat's. Thank you for loaning this knife to me. And you guys will know this right away. The old Spyderco Endura. 4th generation, FFG, VG10, with the beautiful gray FRN handle. And my knife, this is kind of interesting. I ended up getting mine before he bought his, but I was really split between the Endura and this one, and obviously this one that I got beat it out just by, a hair. Do I regret my decision? No. Would I get an Endura? Probably someday. Manix Blue, lightweight, FRCP, I don't know if that means clear polymer, translucent. Let me get the old, check that out. Pretty sick, huh? So let's get into these knives a little bit, and because there's so much information on both of these knives out there, I didn't want to make separate videos for each. I figured, well, I'll put them together and do a little compare and contrast. Like I said, they're similar, but there's some differences too. So let's kind of do some spec comparison. First, let's do the shape of the blade. The Endura is a bigger drop point blade, while the longer, I should say. It's stretched out. While the Manix 2 lightweight is a leaf-shaped blade, and you can see the difference. It's just a little broader. The sizes of these, thickness-wise, they're the same. 3 millimeters or 125 thousandths. Lengthwise, I gotta try and get this right. The Endura is, I'm not even gonna do metric, 3 3/4 inches long, with a just under 3.5 inch cutting edge. No real choil there. I mean, a little bit, but. And the Manix is a 3 and just over a quarter, 3 and 3 3.37 or something like that, with a 2.88 inch cutting edge. Weights on these knives. This I found, Spyderco says on their website 3.4 ounces. I found on a couple other sites 3.6. We'll say 3.5, right around there. The Manix is a 3-ounce knife, and that is due to no liners, and let me see if you can see them, milled liners in there. Might be a little bit difficult to see. That's probably the main cause of that. A little bit longer of a blade, obviously. So now, like I said, there's a lot of information out here on the internet about these knives, and I just wanted to do a little comparison because these knives are so similar in price, so similar in function, and really all about the Spyderco name. I mean, the classic FRN handles, which some people might gripe about, I think do just fine for what their purpose is. And you know, that Spyderco shape, kind of that leaf. This is more of an elongated blade. 4-way positionable clip. On the Endura, while the Manix has that high tension wire clip, tip up, left or right. Good thing it's tip up. That's my preferred way of carrying. I hope I'm not too sporadic here, but the lanyard holes, pretty small little lanyard hole. You could string something through there. This one on the Manix, big lanyard hole. I've strung, 2 strands of 550 cord, non-hollowed out variety, through there and made just a kind of a loop lanyard. Fits just fine, so you could really do whatever you wanted there almost. These handles, I've said, are both that fiberglass FRN, and they have the Spyderco's bi-directional texturing volcano grip. I don't know if that's the same thing, but you can see how one way the pattern locks your hand in, while it's a little slipperier that way. But then when you go to the back, same kind of thing, and they meet in the middle. Ingenious design, if you ask me. And the wear on these, I've found that these FRN handles wear better than G10 and are a lot grippier. Well, I can show you on my paramilitary, which I've worn quite a bit. Can you see that smoothed out? There it is, that smoothed out section. That's what the pocket will do for you. So anyone that says that these handles are cheap, flimsy, non-durable, I really disagree with, especially when there's liners in it. It's really just a covering that so happens to lock your hand in, hold up very well, and say you would drop it, get a little scuff on it, it'd be easy enough to sand out, or doesn't look that bad. Where if you get into more of the G10 and things like that, might show a little more wear, maybe not. Now, I'm not knocking on G10, I love it, absolutely love it, but I'm sticking up for these FRN handles. So the lock design on these knives are different. This is obviously the classic lockback with the David Bowie detent, which there's a little bit of some like, some don't like. I don't care. It's supposed to be a safety feature so you don't accidentally unlock the knife. But it comes out very quick. It's such a smooth knife. Just glassy until about there where the blade is really meeting the surface of the lock bar. Other than that, no complaints on smoothness, quickness. So fast. The Manix has the proprietary cage ball lock by Spyderco, which is similar to the Access lock, only it is said to be stronger and last longer, because instead of the Omega springs that Benchmade uses, this has a can you see it? Let me get the light out again. It has a coil spring in there. There you can kind of, which is essentially the same as a pen spring. So say it were to ever break and you needed something, you could probably find a way to get a spring from a ballpoint pen in there. The way you unlock this is pull back, obviously, and there you go. Now the opening on these two are similar in that they kind of have that initial spring tension that holds the blade in place, and then they slide right open, and they're both equally smooth. I found right when I got this knife that it was a little bit tough, kind of like a good backlock should be. But as I wore this knife and used it for over a year now, I found that that ball that's encapsulated in the polymer little button or cage or whatever you'd call it has probably rounded off some edges a bit and worn itself in, so it's super quick. Does this mean that I've got another year before it goes out? I don't think so. I think that's what they intended it to be for, is to wear in, and I'm expecting that it'll just get quicker and have no problems locking up. Speaking of which, the lockup on this is rock solid, both ways, up and down and side to side. This is the first generation of the Manix 2 lightweight, so everything is pinned together. Haven't found that to be any issue, obviously. The Endura is screwed together with Torx bits, but the lockup on this baby is, again, rock solid. So similar in that way, but just a little bit different design. I think that the backlock design is built to higher tolerances, meaning that it's made to fit together perfectly, and over time, especially with hard use, I think that it would be more likely to maybe have some issues. But with that, I don't think you'd have any problem calling Spyderco up, emailing them, and they'd fix it for you. So well, I don't have one here, sadly, but the little brother to this, the Delica, is maybe more similar to the Manix in size. The blade on the Delica is just under 3 inches, which would be about equivalent to the cutting edge of this Manix. So something like that. A little bit smaller. And obviously you have on the Delica that similar choil which would take up about that much, giving you that much cutting edge. One of the reasons why I was leaning towards or had leaned towards the Manix over the Endura was the choil underneath. That's jimped. They're both jimped on top, but I like that idea of really being able to choke up and get fine detail work done. Where this one, sure, you kind of could be careful, but it's not quite there. So, is it a big deal? I don't think so. Maybe more of an issue that I have that, again, isn't a big deal would be the way that folds. The Manix has nice smooth transitions, while the Endura kind of has that little gap there. Use that knife as a background, and just, you know, this part of the handle, I don't notice it to be a huge issue. How about riding and, you know, wearing in pocket? Well, just a hair longer on the Endura, but, you know, a little bit fatter of a knife for the Manix. I do notice that sometimes with the right pair of pants, I'll use this because it's my knife and I've used it a bunch, wore it a lot. It can be, you know, your hand can run into it as you're taking your phone or keys or whatever out of your pocket. Is it a big deal? No. I keep wearing it. The Endura, I think, would be very similar, maybe a little bit better because it's a bit thinner. And we'll bring out the paramilitary again. Yep. There, just a bit longer on the Endura. Maybe even a bit trimmer for the Endura than the paramilitary. This kind of has a fairly high top of the blade. I think they'd be very similar. Oh, and guess what? Bringing in another Spyderco, the Resilience. Oh, and is that ever dirty? Holy buckets. Check these out. Oh, that's a little bit longer than the Endura now. That's a little bit bigger. Just a taller blade. So what am I getting at? The Endura wears like a Spyderco. I don't find it to be any issue whatsoever. Let's talk about the blade steel, the blades. This knife, factory edge on it, satin finish, same as the Manix, has the highest polished edge I have ever seen. And this camera probably won't do it justice, but it is just mirror. So sharp. This one's been sharpened a few times. I've used it pretty hard. Carving wood, just, you know, all kinds of crazy things. And maybe it's due to the steel, maybe it's my sharpening, maybe it's both. Not quite as high polished. It's pretty fine edge, but nothing like this Endura. Holy buckets. Let's see if I can shine there, Endura, shine. Oh, you can see it. Look at that. How cool. The finishes on these are similar. Satin, I mean, if you want to get real technical, The Manix has more of a milky background to it, where the Endura is almost more of a less glossy, more of a steel-like. I don't know. I mean, this is just getting into details, I guess. The blade steel on this is VG10, excellent Japanese steel. High rust resistance, easy to sharpen, holds an edge well, not outstandingly long, but like I'd said, it's easy to resharpen and touch up. Great steel. This steel is CTS BD1. Now, don't ask me to tell you a lot about it, but I had heard that it's very similar to VG10 in almost all of its properties. I had heard that it's a bit more rust resistant. So that was kind of another reason. I thought, well, if it's at least as good as VG10, it's worth it. So I got it, and I've had no issue with it at all. I think if if you can notice a difference between these two steels, you've probably found your passion in life. Critiquing knife steels, that, or you have too much time on your hands, because I'm not going to count how many cardboard cuts I can get from this knife versus that knife, or vice versa. But what I will do is show you how well these can cut. And I know they cut good because I had to try it last night. My bag of trail mix I finished, and like I said, I had already cut, but there it is, 4. Count them. 4 pieces of plastic. Now just listen to this. Just glassy. Try with the Manix. I haven't tried it with that. I'm expect it'll be just fine. Maybe a little bit tougher. Not noticeable at all unless you have them side by side compared. But remember, this has been resharpened a few times, and I'm no expert. So, oh, one more thing. The deployment holes on these knives are a little bit different. I think this is a 12 millimeter. This is a 14 millimeter. I prefer the bigger hole. I think I have no issue with the smaller one. It comes out just as fast, but you know, you can get more of a thumb into that one, and that's just a upgrade to Spyderco's continuous improvements. They've realized that they can make bigger deployment holes, and they're easier to open. Would I not buy the Endura because it's a little bit smaller? No, absolutely not. Let's bring in the Resilience again. Same thing. 12 millimeter hole, no problem whatsoever. And paramilitary, 14 millimeter hole. Love it. Love it, love it. So these knives are both, we'll say $70. This one is more like, oh, you could probably get it for 60. This one maybe 65, maybe 60 on sale. I think I did get it on sale for 60. Cool, cool. So what would you buy if you had to pick between these two? What would I buy? Well, I bought it. But I guess it would depend on, you know, what you wanted to use the knife for. The Endura is a longer blade. I feel that it feels more, a little more tactical, maybe for thrust cut, because of that steeper ramp of jimping. Again, by the way, the jimping on these two are identical in that they're that finer cut jimping, aside from, here comes the Manix getting all kinds, or the Resilience getting all kinds of publicity here. Can you see how finer here, rougher here? They both lock in great, but just higher quality of workmanship, I would say. So the Manix is made in Golden, Colorado, USA made, while the Endura is from Saki City, Japan. Same price at $65, $70, maybe less, hopefully. I would say the quality on them is equal. They're just a little bit different of a knife. The Manix is more suited towards EDC, I would say, just because of the smaller blade, but it really fits the hand well. So if you ever needed it, God forbid, in a emergency defensive situation, it would do all right. Putting your finger back there would do just fine. A little bit longer of a blade here, not quite as ergonomic of a handle, not a problem. But this one's maybe a little bit more leaning towards the defensive tool, unless of course you like a bigger blade. Aside from that, I wouldn't worry about the weight, about the blade steel, about the handle toughness, about the lock. The pocket clips are equally great. The spider holes both do their job just fine, and they cut wonderfully. So pick your poison. Get them both. I'll probably end up getting one, or the Endura, someday. But in the meanwhile, the Manix has held up beautifully. So thanks guys for watching, and go get yourself one of these true representations of the excellent knife maker Spyderco.